The southern one-third of peninsular Florida is defined by water. Bordered by the salt water of the Atlantic Ocean to the east and the Gulf of Mexico to the west, the interior is an extensive freshwater system known as the Greater Everglades that stretches from Orlando to the Florida Keys. Historically, water in the Greater Everglades ecosystem flowed through a marshy floodplain along the Kissimmee River, south to Lake Okeechobee, then into the Everglades, finishing its journey in the Florida Bay, over 200 miles from its headwaters. It took 6 to 8 months for the water to travel the entire system. Major alterations began in the 1880s when a Philadelphia industrialist named Hamilton Diston purchased 4 million acres of land from the state for $1 million. His impact forever changed South Florida. He began a series of projects to drain the land for settlement and agriculture, and was to expand the waterway connections throughout the Greater Everglades. Diston's first project was to connect the Caloosahatchee River to Lake Okeechobee. The historic Caloosahatchee did not have a navigable connection to Lake Okeechobee. It was fed by a waterfall on the western edge of a series of lakes and marshes, part of the western Everglades that wrapped around the west side of Lake Okeechobee. When Lake Okeechobee water levels were high, water from the lake would flow west through the lakes and marshes, over the Fort Thompson waterfall at Lake Flirt, and then into the Caloosahatchee. Diston's project dynamited the waterfall and carved a navigable connection between the Caloosahatchee and Lake Okeechobee. Next, canals were dredged to connect lakes in the upper Kissimmee. Flooding in the Caloosahatchee became a frequent occurrence as the enormous lake discharged water west into a small canal and diminutive river, causing the water to overflow its banks. Draining the Everglades for agriculture was a major platform for Florida's 19th governor, Napoleon Bonaparte Broward. The Everglades Drainage District was created to convert swampland. Canals were cut south out of Lake Okeechobee through the Everglades to drain away standing water and create more land for agriculture. Fertile peat, the Everglades soil, once drained, produced great stands of sugarcane and winter vegetables. Converting the swamp seemed to be good for the state and the nation. Hurricanes threatened to take back the Everglades and Okeechobee floodplain. In 1926 and in 1928, floodwaters from the lake inundated the flat landscape, killing over 3,000 people. Conditions were so desperate, the state of Florida asked the federal government for help to prevent the flooding and devastation from happening again. Florida entered the flood control era. In 1930, President Herbert Hoover and the U.S. Congress directed the Army Corps of Engineers to design and build a dike to encircle and contain Lake Okeechobee to protect the adjacent communities. The dike cut off the historic flow south out of the lake to the Everglades, necessitating alternative outlets for water to be discharged. A new connection to the Atlantic Ocean was created by dredging a canal to connect the lake to the St. Lucie estuary, and the Caloosahatchee Channel created by Diston was deepened from 6 to 12 feet. But the flooding was not abated. Another series of hurricanes in the 1940s caused massive flooding in the Kissimmee. Once again, the Army Corps of Engineers was directed to relieve the flooding. The result was the conversion of a 103-mile-long winding Kissimmee River into a straight, deep canal 56 miles long and 30 feet deep through the river's floodplain. To accommodate the increased volume of water that was directed into Lake Okeechobee, much faster than it could be discharged, the Caloosahatchee was again altered, widened to 1/4 of a mile wide, and deepened from 12 to 25 feet. The man-made changes to this system forever changed the flow of water in southern Florida and had significant detrimental effects on the water supply, water quality, the timing of water flow, native habitats, and natural community diversity. The construction of locks and dams to manage water flow allowed for the overdrainage and urban and agricultural expansion that significantly degraded habitats, impacted the food chain, and increased pollution, resulting in loss of water supplies and wildlife diversity. In the Kissimmee River, overdrainage decreased and altered habitat for the entire food chain, resulting in the loss of wading bird and fish diversity. The loss of storage and treatment of water affected the timing of flow to the rest of the system. Water drainage in the Kissimmee overwhelms the capacity of Lake Okeechobee, which discharges untreated out of the rivers to the west and east coast estuaries, damaging the balance in these marine nursery areas. Alterations in water flow for the Caloosahatchee River and estuary result from the construction of a series of 3 locks and dams, resulting in conditions that seesaw between too much and too little fresh water. The result is poor water quality and salinity conditions too extreme to support healthy, productive aquatic habitats and wildlife. Too much fresh water washes critical nursery areas to the Gulf, having devastating impacts on recreational and commercial fisheries. Too little fresh water during times of drought causes salinity levels in the river to increase, exceeding the salinity limits for seagrass and oysters. The quality of water that is released is often so polluted with nutrients from fertilizers that it causes harmful algae blooms, which can be harmful to humans and wildlife. Impacts from drainage of the Everglades south of the lake resulted in only half of the historic Everglades remaining today, lost to agriculture and the encroachment of cities along the east coast. The reduced land area has less capacity to capture, store, and treat water, impacting the water supply for Everglades National Park, Florida Bay, and communities along the east coast that depend on the Everglades for their water supply. Water quality is impacted from runoff in every basin throughout the ecosystem. North of the lake, runoff from cattle and dairy add pollutants to Lake Okeechobee. South of the lake, polluted farm runoff from the Everglades agricultural area is back-pumped and back-flowed into Lake Okeechobee, compounding water quality problems in the lake and estuaries and preventing greater flow to the Everglades. Today, we understand the unintended consequences of past drainage efforts and are working to restore the system to balance the needs of humans and nature. Florida has entered the restoration era. The drainage, flood control, and water supply system that was designed to accommodate the South Florida population of 2 million people is now supporting closer to 7 million, and the number continues to grow. Early restoration efforts are yielding excellent results in reversing impacts resulting from flood control engineering. Restoration of the Kissimmee River involves filling in the straightened, dredged channel, restoring flow to the original river channel meanders that had become oxidized. As restoration proceeds, the marsh floodplain is once again storing excess water, slowing down its southward movement, reducing downstream flooding, and cleaning the water by absorbing nutrient pollution and excess sediment. Even before its completion, the Kissimmee River Restoration Project has significantly increased wading bird, duck, shorebird, and recreational fish populations. The success of the Kissimmee River Restoration Project provides a living model for scientists and policymakers that Everglades restoration is possible and a worthy investment that provides healthy, resilient natural resources that also provide economic benefits and resiliency to communities. Restoration does not mean recreating the rivers and lakes as they once were, but instead restoring conditions within the constraints that exist to provide clean and adequate water at the right time to enable nature to restore its critical functions. The benefits are clear. Restoring natural functions as created by nature enhances the quality of life for native and human species and recognizes the unique natural wonders of South Florida and the greater Everglades ecosystem.